Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 3 of our podcast. Now, you might have noticed a pretty big change. We have actually renamed the podcast from I Am Not For Everyone to Becoming Trauma Informed. And so in today's trailer, I just want to chat with you about the shift that we made and why we made it, give you a sneak peek into what's coming from us in Season 3, and share with you all of the excitement that's been happening over at the Institute. So if we have yet to meet in person or have a conversation before, hi, my name's Dr. Lee. I am the CEO and founder of the Institute for Trauma and Psychological Safety. And the Institute didn't exist back when I started this podcast. What I knew when I started Season 1 and when we shifted into Season 2 of the podcast was that I wanted to create a space where people could come and learn about things in a shame-free, pain-free way. And I really wanted people to be able to explore a lot of the taboo or the less talked about things that we experience as humans. And Season 1, we went A through Z through so many different topics: anxiety, bragging, coaching, desires, energy, fears, goals, healthcare, intuition, journaling, knowledge, liminality, money, the word no, overwhelm. I'm going to just put a little warning here. We had an episode that was called Pussy, looking at our female intuition and our knowing and our sense of what it is to be a womb holder in this world. We talked about racism. We talked about shame. We talked about trauma. We talked about unfucking yourself. Basically meaning how to stop self-sabotaging or self-protecting. We talked about vulnerability. We talked about looking at 3 of the biggest terms that we as women face shame over, terms that are used to shame us: witch, bitch, and whore. My husband and I actually came on for an episode and talked about our own sexual traumas and how that affected our sex life in the first 15 years of our marriage. And we talked about youth. We really looked at what it means to value youth in our society today. And then our last episode, we talked about beginnings and endings. Z is for Zed. So I'm actually really proud of myself because I just did all of those by memory. All 26 episodes of those by memory. And so that was our Season 1. And Season 2, we had just started the Institute, and I knew that I wanted to shift gears and really look at talking more about shame. We spent half of our episodes sharing stories of some really, really incredible humans who had experienced shame in their lives in different areas, in their relationships, around their sexual history, around how they identified from a gender and from a sexual orientation perspective. We talked about some really past painful experiences around abuse, emotional and physical abuse. We had guests on who talked about money, who talked about business shame. And so we had so many really, really beautiful conversations in Season 2. And those were interspersed with episodes that I did around various topics on trauma and shame. So we talked through trauma responses, what happens in our body when we sense threat. We talked through marginalization and intersectionality. We had conversations around what it means to be trauma informed. We had a lot of really, really valuable conversations. And moving forward into Season 3, my goal is to do 2 things. One is to really change the way that we are having conversations around trauma and shame at an even bigger level. 2 is to bring in other experts. Our team at ITPS at the Institute has been coming on a few episodes with me. We want to get more vulnerable. We want to get more brave. We want to have even more conversations around the things that a lot of times in our society we look at as black or white, and we don't have the opportunity or the capacity as a society to look at the gray. So we want to have a lot of conversations around that gray space, around being able to see things from multiple different viewpoints and understand what's going on. We also want to give you all some teasers into a lot of the content and the courses that we are going to be running from a programming perspective at the Institute in 2023 and beyond. We actually just mapped out our entire content schedule for 2023, all the programming we're going to be providing from the Institute perspective. We have 16 launches and I believe 11 different courses that we're going to be offering, 11 different opportunities to work with us at the Institute. A lot of times people are like, well, what's going to happen inside of the course? Or what am I going to learn? Or what are we going to focus on? And so one of the things that we thought would be really fun is why don't we go ahead and actually show y'all what some of this content looks like. We have a healthcare provider one-day training coming out in January. We've done a couple episodes on healthcare. We are repeating our offer of the trauma-informed partner, which is something that my husband and I teach together. And so he and I actually will be releasing an episode in the next few weeks that looks at his own mental health journey. And he is getting more vulnerable than I think I've ever seen him get. And it is an absolutely gorgeous conversation. And I think fills a need that is apparent for me doing trauma work in helping men do trauma work, male identifying humans. And we have episodes around doing healing work while you're still healing, and in how trauma shows up in our corporate lives, how trauma shows up in our lives as mental health providers, as first responders. We have courses and content for our HR professionals, for our fitness professionals, for our real estate professionals, and for our educators out there. So we are going to be doing some episodes, offering some episodes around that so that you can get a taste of what we are going to be talking about and you can decide if it feels good for you to hop in or not. Our goal with this season is to really spread the word about the fact that there is so much happening in our world right now that is not trauma-informed. And when we talk about the term trauma-informed, this is what we mean. We mean that when we look at other humans, instead of approaching them with judgment, we approach them with attunement, which we define at the Institute as unconditional acceptance, not approval, acceptance, unconditional acceptance, and undivided attention. So we give people our attention and we make sure that they feel seen and heard. We don't necessarily approve of their actions or of their behavior or of their opinions, and we accept that that is their reality. And this is something that is, from my own viewpoint, looking at social media, looking at news media, looking at the just pressures and stresses that are currently happening in our society, in our world, something that is really, really needed. And so our goal is to help more humans become trauma-informed and take a trauma-informed approach out into the world where they are communicating with other humans. Our mission at the Institute is to create safer, more supportive, more mutually beneficial relationships, both personally and professionally. And so our podcast is an extension of that. So we're really, really excited to spend time with you over these next several months. We're excited to have you listen to these episodes. We are always open to your feedback. We love emails. We love hearing from y'all. So if at any point you're like, oh my gosh, I loved this episode, this really resonated with me, or you'd like more information on a specific topic that we bring up, anything we can do to support you, send us an email, let us know, because we deeply desire to do that. That is all I have for you. Please feel welcome to dive into these first 3 episodes that we've dropped for you, or if you're listening to this later in the season, there should be a plethora of options. Head back into season 1 and 2 if you get intrigued by any of those topics, and we're excited to serve and support you.